For more, we can speak to Dr. Robert Geist Pinfold, a lecturer in peace and security at Durham University. Thank you for speaking to the program. Not sure if you're able to follow along with that last report, but we saw images provided by the Israeli military from Al-Shifa hospital. Given what they allege to have found there, do you think other hospitals will follow?
Well, Israel has been saying for some time now that Hamas has been using hospitals as kind of safe zones for them to store weapons, to store munitions, and indeed to even store hostages and host command and control centers. Now, that was the key accusation here against the Shifa hospital. Israel even released a video once of a Hamas bunker and a huge complex underneath the facility. This was verified by US intelligence as well. But so far, Israel, as that Human Rights Watch report noted, Israel has found limited evidence of any of those things that it's looking for. Yes, it's found some weapons. Yes, it's found a tunnel. But it originally went to Shifa to find this complex, to find the hostages. And so far we have, unfortunately, the bodies of 2 deceased hostages in a building next to the hospital. But Israel has to tread very, very carefully here because anything that it does like this is obviously perceived as an escalation. It's obviously perceived as something that that is undesirable, that creates bad press for it. And if that escalates to the point where Israel can't justify this incursion and its incursion into other hospitals, like the Al-Rantizi hospital not long ago, then it's going to face increasing pressure for a ceasefire, including from its traditional partners, for example, the US. So Israel is on a race against time here to find enough evidence to justify this operation, because otherwise, if it doesn't, this operation could risk compromising its entire operational plans for the Gaza Strip.
And some would say it already has trouble justifying this current operation. The question, 11,400 people killed, 2/3 of those women and children. At what point does Israel have the right to self-defense in Gaza?
Well, this is something that the international community has been grappling with. Obviously, the key precipitant that started Israel's offensive in the Gaza Strip was the killing of around 1,200 Israelis within Israel on October the 7th, the vast majority of them civilians, and the abduction of those 240 hostages from Israel into the Gaza Strip. Now, this really illustrates here Israel's conflicting war aims in its desire to defend itself and to project deterrence. On the one hand, there is a overwhelming public support in Israel for it to destroy Hamas, to dismantle Hamas in the Gaza Strip and make sure that that group no longer poses a strategic threat to Israel, therefore defending itself. On the other hand, Israel's public also want to see the immediate release of those 240 hostages. And those goals can actually be conflicting because the Biden administration has been negotiating behind the scenes with Qatar, with other actors, to basically try and engineer a ceasefire that would see the return of the hostages. Now, Israel, as I say, the government is under pressure to get those hostages back, but it also wants to have time to complete its ground operation to neutralize Hamas, to remove it from power, and therefore to project deterrence and indeed to argue that this, that it has successfully defended itself and stopped this from ever happening again. So there's a clear contradiction in Israel's war aims, and again, a tight balancing act for them to pursue in the near future.
Yeah, and on that last note, if it does neutralize Hamas and remove them from power, what would happen? What would be next? What's the exit strategy?
So this is a key source of tension between Israel and the Biden administration. The Biden administration, don't forget, this is the US. They've had long occupations of Afghanistan and Iraq where they didn't have a sort of day after plan. And they've learned from that. And the US was saying to the Israelis for a long time, including before the ground invasion, you need to tell us what happens next. Our support for your operation is conditional on you demonstrating a plan for the day after Hamas, what's going to happen. And this is a continuing source of friction because the US has backed the Palestinian Authority coming into Gaza to take control of those urban areas in the power vacuum that removing Hamas would create. There's been some talk of a multinational Arab coalition helping prop up the Palestinian Authority. Israel has categorically rejected both of those options. Nonetheless, Israel's government and Israeli policy for decades has sought to remove itself from the day-to-day bureaucracy and control of civilian affairs within the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Israel does not like controlling education, healthcare, policing, for example. So someone needs to do this that is not Israel, but Israel at the same time is rejecting some of the offers put forward by and suggestions put forward by the United States. The key risk here is that we end up with a kind of return to the status quo before October the 7th, of Israel establishing some kind of a buffer zone within the Gaza Strip that it feels helps protect itself, but the potential return of Hamas in those areas if a power vacuum is indeed created that isn't filled very quickly.
Rob, thank you very much for your time. Dr. Rob Geist Pinfold speaking to us from Durham.